We now stand at the precipice as a species. Planet Earth will go on without us if we don't smarten up.
This is our farm compared to our neighbor's farm. So a permaculture farm compares to an industrial farm. This picture was taken on May 24th. Which one of these farms do you think can feed the world? You know, this is the same photo, same shot, same land, taken on June 17th, longest day of the year that we can photosynthesize the most amount of sunlight possible to grow. This is the basis of all of our agriculture, is photosynthesis. Which one of these farms is photosynthesizing more? This is almost the longest day of the year. These guys, the crop isn't even out of the ground yet. We've been photosynthesizing for months. This is August 3rd. They're getting into, they're ready to now that this crop has flowered, once it flowers, it dies and it's no longer photosynthesizing. So it's only been photosynthesizing for like a month and a half. Our farm's been green and photosynthesizing since April. This is August 29th. And the crop is dried and dead. We're still going strong. You know, which one of these has more biodiversity? Which one of them is producing more soil? Which one of them is going to have more nutrient dense food? And which one of them is going to be able to grow food that you're actually going to want to eat in a sustainable manner that will last more than just the next couple decades, while still providing for all the other needs that we have on our planet.
Once we start to emerge out of that very limited way of thinking and start to embrace this holistic systems way of thinking, it's a new lens, we can easily transition from merely surviving to thriving. And that's where, that new definition of resilience comes into play. So our limited ability to solve problems, we get this evolution of the ability to turn challenges into opportunities.
As a species, at least, in the Western world, we have lost a lot of knowledge, and that traditional knowledge, and permaculture gives us tools, a set of principles and ethics, and this allows us to, in a way, find our way back to that knowledge that so many of us have lost.
We can take all of the things that are contextual to us and run them through this beautiful, permaculture coffee filter, and through the observation of patterns and flow and so on, we can distill those down into this delicious design. And what I've noticed, and certainly that all patterns, all energy, has patterns, and all patterns have flow. And that flow, all those patterns and flow will inform, you'll start to see properties emerge. And those properties will then help you design your site or your organization, or your business or your social structures. So you get this emergent design, and that emergent design and those properties together are going to help inform your strategies and tools for actually implementing your design.
I used the contour lines, and I read the topography, and I looked at how these watersheds are flowing. And from there, once I had that information, that's where I actually planned in different ponds, water collection structures, where the roadways are, how the roadways can serve as water catchment structures, right? And we start with water. First, we put in the water infrastructure based on our understanding of water flow in this larger watershed pattern. And then from the water, then we get into roads. Then we're like, okay, well, if this is the best location for a pond, how can I actually put an access way, a roadway that interacts with this pond that is going to maybe harvest more water from the landscape and flow it into that pond, right?
We get so much productivity off of this garden. This is where most of our storage crops are grown. Again, this is spring, probably June or so ish. And these are all mostly cold climate. This is all cool climate crops here. So lots of that. So what's remarkable is in this 40-inch by 10-foot long bed, I typically, not in this one every year, but I typically plant 4 rows of carrots. And those carrots, if they're thinned judiciously, are enough to last us for the entire winter until the next year's carrots are ready. In fact, I still have a bag of carrots from last year in my fridge up here. So amazing how much abundance you can achieve in actually a pretty small space. We also use a lot of techniques like espalier. So we're growing fruit trees on just on one plane. So we take up a lot less space. So this is the back of the vegetable garden, the main garden. So this is a plum, and then I've got a pear on the other side. And, they don't get a ton of solar resources, these guys, but they still produce, which is great.
Again, what our farm is producing is grass-fed beef, milk-fed pork, dairy products, eggs. We're also producing over some years, it's like 12 different varieties of berries that we mix together and sell as a berry medley. But the other thing that makes our farm super unique is that most years we grow all of our own livestock feed. So we grow all of our own grain, and the way we grow our grain is in a this is actually a grain field that you're looking at here, where there's like 15 different species that we planted in that grain field. This is what the grain looks like when we harvest it. So it's a mixture of barley, peas, oats, wheat, with an understory crop of things like chicory, crimson clover, hairy vetch, alfalfas, sorghum, sudan grass, all these different things. I can't get into what are all the reasons those are in there, but they're all serving some function in that planting. This is what our farm is producing. We can feed 30 people a diet like this 365 days of the year.
About a sixth of an acre or 6/10 of an acre black locust with coppice with some nut tree standards installation. And on the left, you can see the pattern and aerial view using keyline patterning. And then on the right, you see it a couple years in. And then this is just a week or so ago in the bottom right, where you see we have a flock of sheep that are largely just for our own, we raise our own meat, but we also integrate them into our tree crops on the property.
Here's a cross section of that same greenhouse that we started with. And so I thought this would give a really great cross section of what a passive solar greenhouse typically looks like and what that geothermal system represents. And so this is the inlet duct right here. And so a geothermal system or climate battery or subterranean heating cooling system, I'm going to start calling it a subterranean heating and cooling system so that we're consistent. Basically involves a pipe that goes to the top of the greenhouse. It sucks hot air out of the top, and then it pushes air through a series of pipes and then back out to a manifold on this side, exhausting it back into the greenhouse. And it's a totally different orientation of system, which is kind of cool because even though our system is different, this system still produces incredible results. And so air gets sucked down out of these pipes from the top of the greenhouse through this pipe underground and then gets split two ways to go to the two outlets. And you'll notice if we go back a couple of photos that the entire system, the entire air system is all run on 2 solar panels that charge a battery, and then that battery runs a controller, and that controller tells the fan when to turn on and turn off.
8,000 feet above sea level, all we had to do, we burned about a cord of wood a year for backup because there were some nights where we just didn't have enough solar during the day to stay comfortable. You can see we start vegetables growing on the counters there. We've got a built-in recycling center. Anyway, what was really cool is we did bring in natural gas for the stove and the water heater. And at the time, this was in the 90s, our natural gas bill was about $12 to $13 a month. And then natural gas skyrocketed there for a while in late 90s. And our bill went up to $13 to $17. So we were really, really shocked by that. And what's really cool about that $12 bill or that $17 bill, 10 of it is just the service charge. 10 of it's just for being attached to the grid, And just to prove that I'm not telling you stories, here's our natural gas bill. And you can see this is in February of 2000. February 2008, and you can see that where it is $16.10, and about $10 of that is the service fee. So you can do this right. You can really, really live lightly on the planet, live sustainably. And you can see we got all kinds of things growing there. We've got that tree in the foreground is a banana tree. And in case you're ever wondering, bananas at 8,000 feet bear fruit about November. So when the sun's bright coming through those windows. We grew all kinds of things in there. We grew tomatoes and chard and spinach. And this bed was entirely watered by gray water from the washing machine.
No matter where you live, no matter what your context is, these permaculture principles are universally applicable. And that's the beauty and the magic inherent and embodied in those principles. So there's something really empowering about taking small actions and then watching those spiral upwards and outwards, right? Embracing a larger kind of community around you as you do so.
But man, if I could just get you to catch a whiff of this pear and a taste, it is buttery soft. I mean, this is amazing. That's what you want. You want not just yield, not just tonnage, but quality. You want people to go, wow, you know, they'll take a bite and they go, oh my God. How many people I've heard this year say, this is the best one I've ever had. We just had one comment today. Somebody said, you know what? Your eggs are amazing. It was the best eggs I've ever had. That's what you want. You want abundance of yield and basically abundance of feedback of quality. People understand nutrient dense food by taste. So let them taste.
So I took a permaculture class, I think it was back in 1990. And I came back, this was my yard, the before picture. And then this is a couple of years later. And I just started planting stuff and trying things. And it's taken on that garden. My son and his family lives in this garden now. And they're loving the legacy that this garden has, especially during the pandemic. You know, my grandchild was born here. And I mean, this is what regenerative design is, in my opinion.
And so part of our vision for our farm is that we explore, you know, multi-storied agroforestry in the vision of, you know, creating a valley clay plain mimic of sorts. And so the three crops that we've been really focusing on are, we make a value-added blackcurrant product called an oxymel, which is a blend of apple cider vinegar, honey, and blackcurrant juice. We grow log-grown shiitake mushrooms. And then we've also been doing some on-farm sales of various berries and vegetables.
I sold 4-year shares at $500. So it's like a CSA model, but for perennial system. So as opposed to paying them back in the first year, it was paid back over 4 years. And so I raised over $10,000 to plant, to purchase over 3,000 different plants, 25 different species, 60 different varieties. I put in a 6-acre forest garden. And over the course of 4 years, the CSA members received 110% of their share back in value. And so this is an example of, you know, the integration between our farm and our community, trying to get them part of the financing and also the planting and stuff of this forest garden. It was just an incredible success.
And I learned from the Balinese that if you plant cassava on an angle, you get a higher root yield. So I made this little fence to keep, so this is where the cows can go and to kind of keep the cows out of the garden. So this is a pathway. And then they ended up putting these arches over it and started planting winged bean and different things on these arches. And it was just, you know, so when you start integrating a good idea, and if the people, when you are gone, they start incorporating it and accentuating it and make it work even better, then you know that it was a good, appropriate idea.
Stand up, stretch. Everybody, you can stretch, stand up and say, try, test, fail, tweak. Try, test, fail, tweak. Come on. Try, test, fail, tweak. That's the whole essence of it. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to try, test, fail, and tweak if you want to have a permaculture lab. That's really what it comes down to.
I've been playing the last couple of years with a friend of mine who's a light engineer. We've been working on this growing hydroponically indoors in our homes. We're growing a wide assortment of vegetables and a lot of leafy greens and whatnot. And we're growing them in 2-quart jars. and clay pellets, and then we just suspend those net pots in the nutrient-rich water, and we're growing all kinds of cool things with that. And it's really fun. It's just a great way to continue growing. You produce so much stuff, so many vegetables over the winter, fresh greens and microgreens and all that stuff.
30 years ago. And we started to transition that right away at the time of purchase. The first thing I did is I built compost bins in the backyard and knew that if this was a resource that I could reinvest into my landscape. So it was a very basic yard, grass from stem to stern, front yard and backyard, of course. But we really, I really had a vision for this property. I knew that it was possible to build much more abundance and really make that connectivity, that connection with my property. So this is what our property basically looks like now, 30 years later. So with some minor shifts, you can see that's quite a difference between that and that. And basically this is all is incredibly productive, really beautiful, very nurturing, and it meets all of our needs as far as, as human, what our needs are as human beings. We produce a ton of food. We have beautiful gathering spaces, lots of social spaces. We've got serenity zones where we can hang out and, hide away for a bit. We've got, we've got lots of ecosystem health here, small greenhouse, lots of rainwater storage. It's so abundant right now. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't believe the harvest. I just finished doing all my canning and I'm like overwhelmed. It's been so much this year, but there's so much productivity that one can produce off of an urban lot. And the permaculture design process is really a valuable design. It's a valuable tool to help us get from what I used to have to what I have today, and the level of productivity and ecosystem health and dynamics.
Well, I hope you found these tidbits of information super inspiring, and it reminded you about how great the weekend was and how much energy was delivered to the world around permaculture. If you're wanting more information, more hope, knowledge, and a plan, you should know that our permaculture design course starts really soon. It's just around the corner. We do this online course once per year, and every single one of these courses has produced incredible students, and the students that have come out of these courses have produced incredible designs. So if you're finding yourself after the last couple of years trying to figure out what now, how do I take this information and action it in my life? How do I remove some of the anxiety that I'm feeling about global supply chains, about the state of the world? And how do I turn that anxiety into something that will actually make my life better? You should definitely consider checking out our permaculture design course. The permaculture design course is a globally accredited 72-hour program that will teach you the nuts and bolts of how to turn your property and your life into abundance. And so if you have concerns about the global supply chain, we were going to teach you how to grow food. We're going to teach you how to plant vegetables, how to grow animals. We're going to teach you how to turn your house into a property that captures its own energy and turns waste into resource. We're going to talk about passive solar greenhouses and livestock systems. We're going to talk about how to build community. And if you're out of work right now or wanting a career change, we're going to show you how you can take these permaculture principles and permaculture information and turn it into a regenerative enterprise. If you've been on the fence for a while, wanting to take a permaculture design course, there's never been a better time. Also, I hope you got an incredible amount of inspiration out of the summit and the replay that we've just put together for you. And if you have any comments, I'd love to know what your most inspiring moment for the summit actually was. Leave those in the comments down below for us. Okay, if you have any questions about the course, please get in touch with us at info@vergepermaculture.ca, and we'll make sure that someone gets in touch with you right away. See you guys soon.